Hello everyone, welcome. This is the story of how Dr. John Watson first met Sherlock Holmes, the brilliant detective known for solving the most mysterious crimes. Their friendship and partnership would go on to become one of the most famous in the world of detective fiction. Our story begins in Victorian London, a time when the British Empire was spreading its power across the world. Britain ruled many lands rich in wealth but weak in unity, and its influence could be felt everywhere. Against this backdrop of empire and expansion, the bustling streets and foggy evenings of London, two remarkable men were about to cross paths. A meeting that would change both their lives. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is the creator of this famous detective fiction. He lived during the Victorian age from 1859 to 1930. By profession, he was a doctor, but he had a deep passion for writing stories filled with logic, mystery, and adventure. Because of his medical background, his stories often reflect a scientific way of thinking. Every mystery unfolds step by step, just like a doctor carefully diagnosing a patient. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is best known for creating Sherlock Holmes, but he also wrote many other works, including The Lost World, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, and The Hound of Baskerville. Through these stories, Doyle introduced readers to a new kind of detective, one who used observation, reason, and science to solve even the most puzzling crimes. Now, let us step into the world he created, where mystery meets reason. Our story begins with Dr. John Watson, a young doctor who had just completed his medical studies. Eager to serve his country, he joined the British Army as an assistant sergeant. Watson was soon posted to Afghanistan, a land torn by war and danger. However, his journey there was far from easy. Before he could even settle in, he was attached to a regiment fighting in the Second Anglo Afghan War. During the campaign, he faced many hardships. In one of the battles at Maiwand, Dr. Watson was badly wounded by a bullet in the shoulder. He also fell seriously ill with enteric fever, a form of typhoid. Weak and unfit for service, he was sent back to England to recover. So, with frail body and limited money, Dr. Watson returned to London, unsure of what his future held. But little did he know, fate had already planned an extraordinary meeting, one that would change his life forever. After returning to London, Dr. Watson found himself in a tough situation. The city was large, crowded, and unfamiliar, and he was alone, weak, and short of money. His health had not yet recovered from the wound and illness he suffered in Afghanistan. Watson longed for a comfortable place to stay, somewhere quiet and affordable. But with limited income, good lodging in London seemed hard to find. He also wished for some company, someone to share rooms with, someone who might bring a bit of warmth and friendship into his lonely days. It was at this point in his life, tired, uncertain, and searching for a new beginning, that destiny was quietly guiding him towards an extraordinary meeting. One day, as Dr. Watson stood in the Criterion Bar in London, wondering what to do next, he felt a gentle tap on his shoulder. Turning around, he was pleasantly surprised to see Mr. Stamford, an old acquaintance from his medical training days. Watson was truly glad to meet a familiar face. Though they had not been very close before, in a big city like London, this friendly meeting felt like a blessing. The two decided to sit down for lunch, and as they ate, they exchanged stories about their lives. Watson spoke honestly about his recent struggles, his service in Afghanistan, his wound, his illness, and his search for a decent place to live. On hearing this story, Stamford suddenly remembered someone he knew, a man who was also looking for a roommate to share lodgings with. That man's name was Sherlock Holmes. As they continued their conversation, Stanford began to describe this man named Sherlock Holmes. Even before introducing them, he gave Dr. Watson a small warning. He explained that Holmes was a very unusual person, brilliant no doubt, but full of strange habits. At times, Holmes could become silent and withdrawn, disappearing into deep thought for hours or even days. He got completely lost in his experiments and hardly noticed the world around him. Stamford, in a friendly way, told Watson that he would gladly introduce them, but he made it clear that he wouldn't take responsibility if they didn't get along. It was almost like a disclaimer, hinting that Holmes was not an ordinary man. But Watson, curious and open minded, was willing to meet this mysterious person, Sherlock Holmes. After all, he needed a place to live and perhaps a new friend. A few days later, Stamford took Dr. Watson to the hospital laboratory to meet the man he'd spoken to about, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. As they entered, they found Holmes in a state of great excitement. He had just made an important scientific discovery, a chemical reagent that could identify blood strains, even from old marks on clothing. This was a path breaking invention. Until then, no one could be sure whether a strain was truly blood or something else. With this new test, Holmes proudly explained, detectives could now confirm blood evidence, a tool that would help solve countless murder mysteries in the future. In this moment of enthusiasm and scientific triumph, Dr. Watson was introduced to Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Their meeting was brief but unforgettable. A calm, thoughtful doctor meeting a sharp, energetic detective. It was the beginning of a remarkable friendship and the start of many adventures yet to come. During their conversation, when Holmes learned that Dr. Watson was looking for a roommate, he spoke quite openly and honestly. Holmes believed that people who live together should understand each other's habits from the start. So he shared some of his strange habits, how he often stayed up late working on his experiments, how he sometimes played the violin at odd hours, and how he could become deeply absorbed in his thoughts for long stretches of time. Dr. Watson, in return, shared a few things about his own lifestyle, his need for quiet rest, his medical routines, and his calm nature. After listening to each other, both agreed that they could tolerate each other's habits and decided to share a room. Holmes mentioned that he knew of a comfortable lodging on Baker Street that might suit them both. Together, they planned to visit the place, and if it felt right, they would move in as flatmates, unaware that this decision would mark the beginning of a lifelong partnership and many thrilling adventures. When they went to see the rooms on Baker Street, both Holmes and Watson found them just right, comfortable, well lit, and within their budget. Pleased with what they saw, they decided to move in together. And that is how Dr. John Watson met Mr. Sherlock Holmes, the brilliant detective. This chance meeting marked the beginning of a lifelong friendship and the start of many thrilling adventures, where Dr. Watson would faithfully assist Holmes in solving mysterious crimes. I hope you enjoyed listening to this story and now feel confident to write your own summary about how they first met. If you'd like to read a simple and easy to understand version of the story, you can visit my blogger link below where the entire meeting is explained clearly in plain English.